I'm talking with my mouth full. What are you gonna do about it?
I hit the record button, so I guess I better start talking. It's Liam Allstar here. Welcome to the first episode of this version of reality for 2018. How the hell is everybody? Pretty good? Had a good holiday? Exactly. You know why you had a bad holiday? Because I know you all groaned just as I asked that. You know why you had a bad holiday? Because you had to spend it with your family. Now, like I've said in my newest routine, I am against holidays where you have to spend it with your family. A great opener for my third A grade material. Not bad. And I performed that at Tune-Up. And the first time I was at Tune-Up, did it in the break, in between gigs that were booked, between sit down and a couple of other places which independently run independently. I can't even talk. I've lost my ability to speak. It's how late it is right now. I'm recording, but working on new stuff and not forcing it like I did before. It's 15 minutes of gold. Now what the hell do I do? Now what the hell am I supposed to do? Well, obviously, work on the next 5 minutes, and the next, and the next, and the next. The 3 routines out of 11, about 11 routines that I've tested on the big stage and perfected. That sounds like a pretty low success rate, but then in the grand scheme of things, I've done so many routines and a couple have been merged together to form one, and then I've worked on another one, and then I tried bringing another one out and it's stuffed up, and then another one, and then now seeming to find the funny once again, which a lot of people do seem to have trouble with from time to time, is going back to their roots and finding just exactly what got them to the dance in the first place. And it's really awesome because I did it at Tune-Up, and it was just pretty much off the cuff stuff. Hey, that rhymes. Good for me. Bust a rhyme and doing some time podcasting. So what the hell was I even talking about? Prattling along. Yeah, people are probably losing interest. I'm losing interest. I would have turned this podcast off right now if I was listening to myself, thinking to myself, stop acting like an idiot and prattling and talking a bunch of BS and actually get to the point at which we're trying to talk about, for Christ's sake. I was talking about, yes, did it at Tune-Up, which is renowned for being one of the loosest gigs in all of Queensland, in all of, Greater Brisbane area, Gold Coast region, wherever you want. Because down the Gold Coast, went there for the first time and killed it. Opening act. And trudged out a little bit of tester jokes for another routine which I was working on, and then went back the next week and went from, just by mere coincidence, went from opener to closer. Now I could lie and say, see, that's how successful I am down there, but in reality it's just about, placement on the card. And it was a rant, more or less the first time I was there, because it was the first time I was there. First time I did that routine. They didn't know that. The first time that they'd seen me down there. So let's go with this guy first, just in case he stinks out the joint. Turns out, warmed them up for everyone else in what I call a beautiful disaster. It was awesome, but at the same time, there was so much chaos, chaoticness, everything in between. It was great, you know. But then the next week, working on other stuff, and then now I hit the big time. Stone's Corner, testing out routine. This one might just have outdone my greatest routine, which is debatable between my gay marriage equality routine and my car park routine. There are those that say that the gay marriage equality routine was great, it was excellent, but then everyone's sick of hearing about all the topic of gay marriage equality, plebiscite. It's funny, but in terms of fresh, it has gone a bit stale, and it's not my fault, and my jokes in it are funny, but it's just the fact that everyone's just sick of hearing about it. Give it some time, put it back on the shelf. And the car park routine, which was called the most politically incorrect routine that some people have ever heard. It has had split reactions, particularly for the end joke. It has incited violence against me, all of which, by the way, everything I'm talking about, audience interaction, I just uploaded recently, as of this podcast, a highlights video, because the 13th video was missing, which was the first time I ever did the gay marriage equality routine. I lost the video, so I figured I gotta put something up. I gotta do something to fill it. And so I went through every video that I'd recorded of me doing stand-up and put through in clips all the audience interactions. Well, maybe not all, because, you know, there were a couple of gigs where it was like, you know, I basically put the best audience interactions in, you know, the best of the, you know, good and the best of the bad. And you can check that out. You can see what I mean by, you know, all what I'm talking about. The Manly incident is 29 minutes into the video. Yeah, that's how long this one is. The stand-up highlights are usually no more than 5 to 10 minutes long, if even 5 minutes, because let's face the facts, a gig is about 5 minutes. I'm not giving away my entire routine for free. I'll give you some little snippets, some highlights, and reactions, that. Absolutely. And if you want to see a gig, you got to come along. That's the deal. But this one is just a bit, I guess you could say, it's my late Christmas present to everyone who dares to subscribe to my channel, which I got a few. I would like a few more. So, we're talking about the car park routine. Now, this routine was one of two that I was working on to replace those two routines. And Stone's Corner, the big gig, and the first one back for the year, packed house. We're talking beyond full capacity, pretty much, or you know, beyond seating capacity. There were people pretty much seated, and there were people that were standing. There was even a reserve table. They even brought out another table for a reserve table. Some geniuses had the idea of actually reserving some seats for themselves. And I was fourth in the act. Everyone was doing a good job, and the crowd was, as people say, they were a willing crowd. But at the same time, this was a big crowd, so it could go either way. If my stuff that I did down in the loosest room in comedy didn't get over with a more serious audience, that would be another routine that'd have to go back to the drawing board. I already had two that I had to, you know, one that I've pretty much scrapped and thrown away, unfortunately, didn't survive the circuit. And another which I brought off the shelf and start working on a little bit, but it's not ready. to go back into circulation. And it's unfortunately not quite at the standard at which my comedy is, and I guess the expectation of the crowd now, maybe people getting to, expect just perfection. And if that was the case, then absolutely that routine was not ready. But heading in towards Christmas time as well, definitely that impatience there. People want good stuff. They're not willing to give the last one. Which is a good time to test out new stuff and find if it's actually funny or not. But Stone's Corner. Tested out the material that I did down. Second time that I've ever done it. And is probably the quickest time that I've ever managed to get a routine perfected. But then again, I guess there was a little bit of that cheat in between, because I'd been working on this meticulously in my head over and over and over again. And I snuck out to do a tune-up down the Gold Coast. And then I was pretty much ready to go, ready to bust it out. And it's been called my best gig ever, my best set ever. This routine has put me in a bit of a bind, because, well, I got my 15 minutes. The next one, is there that same expectation? But then, who cares? I got my 15 minutes, but at the same time, you got only 15 minutes. So what? You got 15 minutes of A-grade stuff, and then the rest of the 45 minutes that I've planned for, aiming for an hour, you got 15 minutes. You know what? You couldn't fill out an hour show with A-grade stuff. What the hell is wrong with you, mate? I mean, come on, 15 minutes. Yeah, I know. I'm so confident, right, with myself. No, but in all seriousness, the fact is that is something that's been in my head for quite some time. In all seriousness, because I got my 15 minutes. Now this routine is better than the other two in terms of reception and everything else. It still needs a bit of, working over, perhaps with different crowds. But now, coming into Raw, best of the best. I got 3 routines. One that I know is probably going to be funny, but then at the same time, topic-wise, everyone's sick of hearing about it. Then a car park routine, which is political incorrectness, but damn funny stuff. And then this routine right here, which is new, tested, perfected. Is that the one to go in to Raw? Now that's an interesting question that I would have to ask myself. Which one do I go in for Raw? And this is my first ever Raw. I want to try and get to the main event. I want to try and get to the national final. I want to go as far as I can. That's how high I set the goal. I want to be there in Edinburgh and be there standing with a bunch of other comics and putting that 5 minutes forward and killing it like I did that night. The standard has risen once again. The bar is higher than it has ever been before. And now it seems as though I've got to keep getting up to that standard. There's pressure there, because at one hand there's confidence in knowing that I've got the ability to do so. But then at the same time, and everyone else can relate to this, there's always that little tiny voice in your head called logic and reasoning that tries to look for a technicality there somewhere, where some hypothetical where it's like, well, hang on, what if something happens? What if maybe it doesn't get over quite as you wanted to? Maybe you need to reconsider. Maybe you need to take things into account for what other people expect instead of what you think will happen, what actually will go and happen. Reality, right? Reality is what am I trying to go through? Reality is the one thing that kills everybody's confidence. Why? because reality is reality. But hey, in this version of reality, things are different. We're talking about this version of reality. In this version of reality, we just broke into a fourth wall, into like the eighth wall right now. What do I do now with the 15 minutes that I got? It's simple. I keep working, I keep trying, I keep going forward. Maybe that's a lesson in itself for anyone listening. Maybe a little bit of motivation for people. I got 15 minutes of the best stuff that I had. I got 15 and our goal is 60 minutes. Then there's another 5-minute bit that I know that will do well, but it hasn't been tested yet. Will it kill just as well? Will it even surpass the next routine? Because who knows? Just stop thinking about it. Just go forward, go for it. Just keep aiming for the next goal and forget about everything else that you think you know, and that every expectation that you think is going to be, whether it's positive or negative. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Because at the end of the day, expectations and reality, there are two different things. Reality is the defeat of confidence sometimes, because you look at the reality of a situation and sometimes reality tells you something that you don't want to hear. But then, opposite. Reality is there just as, concepts of what is around you. Like this right now. Like, why did I call it this version of reality? Because it's different. Because it's outside of reality. Because it's another version. Because here, things are different. Here, we talk about things, I talk about things at least, that perhaps don't apply in the other version of reality, but should. But anyway, I've got 15 minutes. I've said that so many times. It's exciting. 15 minutes. That is good. My stand-up career is right now heading towards 9 months. So it's about 8.5 right now, and 15 minutes of good material. 3 different routines. That's good. Another routine that's been tested once, and one that I know, one that I'd yet to test. Get to 20, awesome. But what other topics are there right now? What else is there to discuss? I mean, there's so many other things to work on, right? So many other things, like right now. I mean, there was something that happened that, because I'm just coming from a gig that I watched right now, and a little bit of material fell into my lap that I could perhaps throw, life observation, because I'm an observationalist. So things just fall into my lap all the time. And I either go with the topic and just roll with that and then just bleed it until it fills up a certain amount of time, and then I go to the next thing. But then at the same time make sure that it's entertaining and comedic. Like this, for example. This thing that fell into my lap. I was going on the highway to the gig. Now I'm coming from the gig, but I was going to the gig. And what happened was, of course, traveling along the Pacific Highway. If you don't know where that is, look it up. The Pacific Highway, which has a tendency to bank up and have traffic jams. And there was a mobile radar van, a radar unit, sitting on the side of a highway in peak hour traffic in the afternoon. Afternoon peak hour traffic, rush hour traffic, whatever you want to call it, in the afternoon. Bumper to bumper, slowed down traffic. And that van is there, taking taxpayers' dollars while sitting there watching people not speed. I mean, if there's a person that's able to speed through peak hour traffic, one or two things is going to happen. One, they will cause a pile up, because if they're able to speed through traffic that's going 20k an hour, they're probably in a tank running over cars. But in any given scenario, it's like, well, okay, that car is speeding through. A mobile radar unit is not what we need. What we need right now is a little ambulance, perhaps. You know, fire trucks, because after all that carnage, I reckon someone going that fast through peak hour traffic is going to tear it up, literally. I don't know. What do you reckon? I mean, that's something that actually happened. It's hilarious in itself to just talk about how we're spending our taxpayers' dollars for these. They're not revenue raises. Well, definitely not that one. I guess you could say there's the funny right there. Well, we say they're revenue raises, but that can't be true, because that one was placed in peak hour traffic in the afternoon, bumper to bumper. So they're not always just there to revenue raise. You know, sometimes they're just there to survey the traffic. Yeah, there, look, I just lost it right there. Had the funny and then I just lost it. Damn it. Making it seem like it's harder than it is. Hey-oh! There's a punerific right there. What am I even talking about here? I mean, I just went from announcing that, 15 minutes. This is just random off-the-cuff stuff right here. It is just conversation, I guess you could say, to fill half an hour of the fact that for the last month, I've had no podcasts. But then no one really cares and no one really noticed, because this is a very young and unknown podcast. It's not here really to break records or to hit the top of the charts. If it did, that'd be nice, but right now it's really just here to announce what the hell am I up to. Keep people informed. Instead of talking to a bunch of people, I can just say, go to this podcast, play, that's me updated, that's what I'm doing. And then there are times where I just go out, have some fun on this podcast. You know, I've had one guest. Maybe I should work on getting more guests, more people. But then why? For this podcast? Why? I mean, you're not even listening. I'm just talking to myself right now. That's quite literally true, because I haven't posted it yet. See, now we're getting introspective right here. Oh, while I'm here, I guess, just announce the YouTube channel where you would find this and other various content. There have been various recordings of which have been completed. I mean, you know, the US series is done. There is the newest series, which is going to come up there soon. This virtual reality, which I've called it, which is, it's a pun from this very podcast, this version of reality. So this virtual reality. I mean, maybe I should have called that this version of reality gaming. Maybe I'll look at that at some point. Who knows? But for now, that's what it's called. But playing through Robo Recall. Now that was recorded some time ago. I recently did some other virtual reality recordings, some gameplay through. I'm very pleased with the outcome of these latest recordings. They seem to be going very well. I've got a bank load of stand-up highlights. I know what some of you are thinking. These highlights are old. Or maybe you weren't thinking that because you didn't know, but I just let that out the bag. Some of them are old, but that's just, you know, because it took some time to edit them, because I want to put them out one at a time, because I don't have nearly enough time or content to put out one every day. If I do ever, but then that's me going full throttle in the YouTube scheme of things, in the grand scheme you could say, but I'm saying the YouTube scheme because YouTube is bigger than a grand's. It definitely is. God damn it. Did anyone remember I'm driving home? I didn't for a second. And apparently all these people that are driving on the road have forgotten how to goddamn freaking drive. I'm just going all over the place. What was I talking about? Yeah, recording gaming. And there's other things on the horizon as well that I am planning to put on the YouTube channel. You know, the stand-up highlights, yada, yada, yada. It's all part of the plan. And what is the plan? Simple, because I can. That's the plan. That's just all it is. That's just all that this is. And, well, 15 minutes, huh? Well, I guess you could say that 15 minutes of this podcast was good, and the other 15 minutes was just prattling on about nothing. But you're still listening, so maybe it was worthwhile. But then maybe, just like with the comedy, I need to come up with some more better stuff, some good stuff. That's exactly what I plan to do. 15 minutes. Awesome. Now, 45 minutes to go until I have my first hour's worth of material. That's the ultimate goal. Plenty of things to talk about. Plenty of things that I got in my notes. Plenty of things that I've definitely taken a note of. Like the fact that the white cat almost tried to run under my car. You got to think to yourself sometimes, these cats, do they... I mean, we talk about people, you know, and the suicide problem that humans have, but is it a case of cat suicide? Like, do they have like a similar issue in the cat community? That's just horrible. That's an awful joke. Or maybe it's so horrible that it's funny. Who knows? If you're laughing, then I guess I made it funny past. Woohoo. I'm pretty much out of things to say right now. This whole podcast could be regarded as just not so much entertainment, but colourful filler to say, welcome back to this version of reality, and this is what's been happening in that version of reality, or that version of reality known as real life. Raw is coming. 11th of February is my heat. If you are going to come along, make sure you call Sit Down Comedy Club, because they will be handling the ticket sales and the booking, etc. They're running the whole thing, at least for the Queensland bracket. You know, the fact of the matter is that you're running out of time, man. It's getting closer. And now, with my 15 minutes, I'm going to choose my best 5. That is going to be tricky. But I promise you all, it'll be good. I'm going to go out there, put on one hell of a show. But now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get out of my car. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to go to sleep. Because I'm not quite that famous yet. I have to work tomorrow. Yeah, that's right. A job. Boo. If you knew what I was doing, boo. If you knew what I had to put up with, boo. And if you're my boss, boo. I'm just kidding, or am I? But anyway, enough prattling and everything. Thank you all very much for listening. And as always, like I say, like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook so you can get all the updates of where I will be performing, and from time to time as well, I guess you could say some little quippy statuses, some comical genius statuses that I sometimes put up. But that's where you get all updates of where I'm going and what I'm doing, if I'm doing anything. They're heading towards Raw. I mean, I'll probably just take a little bit of, just a bit of a breather in between my last gig before Raw and the gig at Raw, just so, I don't burn myself out. But, like I say, as always, my name is Liam, and I will see you guys next time.